Well, it's time again for the video that I unfortunately have to make every year with the latest scams, whether they're brand new scams or scams that are becoming newly popular. This time I have 7 new scams to talk about, and some of them are very clever, and of course the best way to protect against them is to simply know about them, so make sure you pay attention and watch all the way through. So let's get into it. Starting off with number 1, we have a scam called virtual kidnapping, which I think is one of the most evil scams I've heard about in a long time. Probably deserves its own video, but here's the basics. How this scam works is a victim will receive a phone call that appears to be from a family member, but it's actually a scammer who has spoofed that family member's phone number. And then the scammer will actually pretend to have kidnapped that family member or friend. So when you go to pick up, they'll say, "I have your mom hostage," or whatever family member, and they'll usually have an accomplice in the background who is screaming or yelling or crying and making fake noises to make you think that that's your family member and that they stole their phone and are calling you from them and demanding payment, or else they're gonna hurt them. So it's pretty evil. Sometimes the scammer will actually look on social media and try to find people who are on vacation, because probably this person told their family members that they're going on vacation, so they might be more likely to believe that they were kidnapped while traveling. A lot of families worry when someone goes out of the country, for example, anyway. But believe it or not, it actually gets worse, because these days the technology exists to actually clone someone's voice using just a few seconds of audio sample, and there have been cases where a scammer uses this technology to clone someone's voice and call family members pretending to be them. So the family member will get a spoofed phone call appearing to come from this person, appearing to be this person on the phone talking and asking for the person to send money because whatever crisis is going on. Maybe they're saying I'm kidnapped, or maybe they're saying I'm in jail and I need bail, whatever reason. And I think as this technology becomes more accessible, it'll become more common. So you want to know about this ahead of time. However, even if this happens to you and you know it's almost certainly a scam, but you want to be sure just in case, there's several telltale signs that it is a scam. One thing is that if you demand verification or proof of life or something, the scammer will probably just make more threats and deny you to do that. So if you say, send a picture of this person or something like that, they'll probably just say, no, if you don't send the money right now, I'm gonna hurt them even more, something like that. They'll just outright refuse, even though it's probably in their best interest, if this was really the case, to actually prove that they have what they say they do. And also, they will go to great lengths to get you to not hang up the phone, because they know that if you actually text the person back at the number that they're spoofing or call them back, they're not gonna get the phone call. The real person is, and then they'll immediately be able to know that it was a scam. So if you say something like, well, I'm gonna hang up and call back to make sure you actually have the phone, they are gonna give you every reason why you should not do that and that you'll regret it if you do, and that sort of thing. So one thing you could try if you really are not sure if this is the real deal, you could send a text message to this person who's supposedly calling you and say, I just sent you a text message, what does it say? And if this person on the other line, who supposedly has that phone, can't tell you what the text message is, because they obviously wouldn't receive it because it was spoofed, then you know it's a scam, 100%. Or you could even say something like, hey, I'll pay you triple if I'm able to hang up and call you back and you pick up. And even though that seems like a great deal, they still won't do it. They'll say, no, you better not hang up, whatever excuse. The thing with all these types of scams is they want you to pay, they want you to pay immediately, and they want you to not have a chance to verify anything. Now, one thing to note is if you're on a landline, be careful if you go to hang up and then try to call back, because there's actually a lot of phone companies where if you hang up and the other person doesn't, it will actually keep the line connected. So when you go to pick up the phone again after hanging up, you may still be talking to that scammer. This is actually the basis of another type of scam called a delayed disconnect scam. I did make a video about it in the past, so I'll have that pop out. So if you're on a cell phone, you don't have to worry about this, but just be aware of that. So anyway, to sum this up, if you get a phone call from supposedly a friend or family's number and it is some hostage taker or even appears to be the person themselves talking, but they're asking for money, be extremely suspicious and maybe verify using another method. Maybe call them from another phone or have some kind of password set up in case of emergency, something like that. All right, now before we continue, I want to give a big thanks to today's sponsor, Guardio, which is relevant to this video. Guardio is a browser extension that provides real-time protection from all sorts of threats while browsing the web. For example, it blocks malicious sites using in-house custom-developed methods for detecting phishing and malware content, all before those threats have a chance to do any harm. It also scans your other browser extensions and alerts you if there are any disguised malicious extensions installed. And if there are any sites that trick you into enabling shady spam notifications, Guardio will trace the actual source of those notifications and eliminate them, even if they're disguised. Plus, there are other features, such as newly enhanced identity monitoring for leaks of your personal info on the dark web with real-time alerts, even if you signed up for something on mobile. Another feature is search hijack correction, like in case any sites attempt to change your browser settings without your permission. Guardio has also added download protection to block malicious files, even if you accidentally click to download them, like infected game mods, program updates, and more. Recently, it was found that even Google ads were used to distribute malware from sites impersonating popular programs like Audacity, and Guardio can also block those. You may have also seen how recently a lot of YouTube channels have been taken over and used to stream fake cryptocurrency scams, and Guardio can also block the scams linked from those videos. You can scan your browser for threats for free by visiting guard.io/TheoJoe and installing the extension, and you'll also get a free 7-day trial to the premium features such as real-time threat removal. So if you want a secure and clean browsing experience, again, visit guard.io/TheoJoe, link in the description, and also check out their affordable premium plan for full protection. And with all that being said, let's continue on to the rest of the scams. All right, moving on to scam number 2. Fortunately, this isn't as evil as the first one, but definitely clever. And that is a self-checkout scam. So imagine you're at the grocery store, you go to the self-checkout, you buy your groceries and get home and realize on the receipt that you got charged more than you should have. There's something on that list of items that you didn't buy. Well, you just got scammed. But how did that happen? What happens with this is the scammer will go through the self-checkout with a gift card for some amount, say $20, and they'll start the checkout process, scan it, and then walk away. And they'll wait and hope that someone will show up to that self-checkout and start filling out their own groceries without realizing that the checkout process had already started, and then eventually they'll pay for not only their groceries, but the gift card that the scammer had scanned. I've seen stories about this happening specifically at Walmart, and I'm not sure that this would probably work at all stores depending on the user interface of the self-checkout. I bet at some stores it's more obvious than others that the checkout process has already been started and there's already something scanned. So just be sure if you're doing a self-checkout at any store that you're 100% certain that it starts out with a $0 total before you scan anything. So that way you can know no one scanned a gift card or something and they're gonna go use it after you bought it. All right, now number 3 is more of a technique that might be used on any number of scams, and that is one-time password stealing. These days, a lot of services, especially banks and financial institutions, require two-factor authentication, at least in the form of an SMS message, where if you go to try and log in or send money or something, they'll send you a text and you have to type in the code to complete that. So that way, even if someone steals your password, they can't actually do anything without that code. But scammers have realized that a lot of times it's actually pretty easy to trick someone into giving them that code anyway. For example, if it's over the phone, they may say, hey, I'm gonna send you a verification code and I need you to read that back to make sure you're real. But really what's happening is they're logging into your bank using your credentials that they stole some other way, maybe through phishing, and they need that code to log in. So they're pretending that they sent you the code, but really it's the bank sending you the code, but the scammer needs it to log in, so they simply ask you for it, pretending to be the bank. It could also even be a phishing site that is set up to not only steal your login credentials, but also the code that they send you. So when you type in your login and password, it will try and log into the real bank site. It'll trigger the message to go to your phone, and then when you type the code into the fake phishing site, they'll be able to log into the real one. And there are even bots out there that will do this in an automated way where they'll call you and it'll have a robot voice pretending to be your bank and it'll say, we're sending you a code, please type it back in. But really, it's the scammer. It's not from the bank. So when you go to type back into the phone, they steal it. I actually made a video about this specific technique in the past. I'll have that one pop out too. All right, moving on, we have fake QR codes, which again might be used in several different ways. Basically, scammers will put QR codes that are malicious out there in public and hope people will scan them. One example I've seen is scammers will put a QR code on a parking meter and pretend that's the way you're supposed to pay. So when someone goes up to pay their parking meter, they'll scan the code, send the money, and someone will think that they just paid the parking meter, but really they sent it to a scammer. I've also seen examples where scammers will mail out junk mail that has some kind of QR code for how you can claim a free gift or something like that, and it either steals your information or steals your credit card because of some fee, but basically they're just trying to get you to scan that code to take you to the scam. It's also possible they'll just put a QR code that links to malware of some kind, and they're hoping people will just scan it out of curiosity, or they might even replace a QR code that is legitimate at some store with a fake one. So just be aware of these things. All right, moving on, we have Facebook Marketplace scams. These theoretically could happen on any online marketplace, but Facebook is apparently one of the more common ones these days. The one that's been popular recently is if you go to list an item on Facebook Marketplace, a scammer will contact you and say, hey, I want to give you a deposit and pay you right now, and then I'll pick it up later, or I'll have someone pick it up. So instead of paying in person like you normally would, they'll want to send the money ahead of time, and then usually what they'll do is just pretend to accidentally send too much money, and then it turns into a classic overpayment scam where they paid you using some fraudulent method, and they'll say, oh, I sent too much, can you send back the difference? And then if you send the difference back, the bank will realize the first transaction was fraudulent, and they'll take that money back as well as what you sent them, and now you're out both amounts. There's also another scam I've mentioned before where a scammer will say that they want to verify that you're real and ask you to send back a code, but it ends up being a Google Voice code, and they'll basically use that to hijack your phone number effectively. So don't send back any kind of code they ask for. Don't accept payments that are non-normal, not in person. The best thing to do is, if possible, meet in a neutral public place with a lot of people around to exchange this item. And actually these days, a lot of police departments have designated zones set up outside the department where it'll be 24/7 monitored, and it's basically a safe spot for where you can sell or buy things in person from online transactions. I believe these are called safe exchange zones usually, and there's actually one website, it's called safetradespots.com. This one seems to be the most up-to-date and most comprehensive list. So you can look up your local area on that and see all the police departments that have a zone set up. You can do this safely, or you could always just Google safe exchange zone and the name of your town, police, something like that. And if I was selling something really high priced like a car, what I would probably do is have them meet you at their bank, and then they'll go and you watch them get a cashier's check from the actual bank teller, and then they'll give that to you, and then you can know that it's a legitimate one that just came from the bank. All right, on to the next scam, are text messages from your own number. Usually the scammer will send these out and pretend to be your phone carrier, and it's mostly to get your attention. And I guess they figure, well, who else would be able to send a text message from my own number than the phone carrier? So you might think it's logical, and it'll usually be something related to your bill. It'll say there was an error in your payment, or here's the confirmation for your payment. It'll be some kind of phishing link or some other malware link of some kind. Theoretically, this could be used for any type of scam, I guess, just to get your attention. But like I said, most of the time it's gonna pretend to be your phone carrier. All right, finally on to number 7, though stick around, I do have a couple more to mention after this. And this one is student loan forgiveness scams. As you may know, in the United States, there's been a lot of talk of forgiving student loan debt, and scammers have noticed this and are taking advantage. A lot of times this will involve either getting a spam email or maybe even seeing an ad that will claim that this is the way you can get your student loan debt forgiven of any amount, and then they'll require some kind of payment, whether it's a fee or whatever, and really they just end up stealing that money. Or they might just ask for personal information and use that to steal your identity, and they might even ask for something like your FSA ID, Federal Student Aid ID, and password, and use that for God knows what. Now, I should point out that apparently there are legitimate companies out there that specialize in debt relief, and charge a fee, but definitely be suspicious of these if they're even necessary. The usual advice I see is to reach out to your loan servicer directly. That's the company that you pay your interest payments to. They'll help you out because it still means they get paid and you don't have to go through some third party that's potentially a scam. All right, finally, as a bonus, I'm gonna quickly go through a few scams that I've already made dedicated videos about, so I'm not gonna go into super detail, but I will put the links popping out or in the description. So while I'm quickly going through them, definitely watch those as well. The first is a big one. It's called the pig butchering scam. And basically a scammer will spend a lot of time pretending to be either someone from a dating app or someone that reached out to you via text and is trying to be your friend. And eventually, after gaining your trust, even potentially over months, they'll try to get you to invest in this crypto investing thing that they're supposedly doing and making a lot of money, but really they end up just stealing it because it's a fake site that they run. Better watch the whole video because it can be extremely involved, but just be aware that that is a scam that's becoming popular. If you Google pig butchering scam, you'll find a lot of results. Another one is called business email compromise. This is the one the FBI warned about, and basically a scammer will hack into a company and access their email servers and then email out to customers and scam them using the real company's email address. And they'll pretend to say, hey, if you pay us this amount early, we'll give you a discount, something like that, and you end up paying the scammer. So again, watch that video. Third is a PayPal email scam where the scammer will use a feature in PayPal that lets you send out an invoice, and the email will actually come from PayPal and say that you received an invoice for some payment, and the scammer will put in info to make it look like you owe this money, but really, you don't have to pay it at all. So be suspicious of emails, even if they appear to come from paypal.com, that are asking you to pay for something. And finally, I made a video talking about how comment scams are going rampant on YouTube. This may be saying to contact on WhatsApp and they'll impersonate the creator and say, oh, you won a prize, send the shipping fee and we'll send it out. There's also one where a scammer will leave a spam comment pretending to recommend some kind of hacker on Instagram who will be able to get your money back if you had it stolen. And a lot of times they target videos just like this one. But of course, this is not a real person who's gonna get your money back. They'll just steal it again. So I'll put links to all those in the description if they didn't pop out already. Definitely watch those. Those are the ones I've made in the past year. So hopefully this video helps you out so you can avoid all of these scams. Thanks again to Guardio for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to visit guard.io/TheoJoe and install the extension and scan your browser for threats for free. The link is also in the description. If you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a big thumbs up and let me know down in the comments if there's a scam that you've never heard of before, and we can watch out for that too. If you want to keep watching, the next video I recommend is the video I made last year about new scams in 2022. They're still valid, so definitely check that out so you don't fall for those either. So thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.